Hey guys, it's Mountain Walk, and today we're going to be talking a little bit about Stasis. That's right, your favorite deck, my favorite deck. Well, maybe not my favorite deck, but a kind or archetype of deck that I really like. Big fan of prison decks, big fan of making people suffer. Um, this is a good one, a good one. So that's always fun. When it comes together, it works great and it's fucking awesome. It's really funny, you know. So we're gonna play some Stasis. Everyone likes it. It's got that ridiculous art. Uh, Man, that art is. Yeah, that's some art. Anyways, let's get to it. Let's get talking about this deck, and it'll be great. All right. So, what are we doing with Stasis? What is Stasis? Stasis is basically a prison deck, but with a ton of control elements to more or less help it establish its lock and then also prevent your opponents from disrupting it because it can play all of these different control elements like bounce spells, counter spells, things like that because it's essentially a one-card combo, more or less, which is just Stasis itself. Get Stasis into play, and then just sit there, and you can lock them out, and really, it's about the most complete lock you can really ever do in the game. Really, I mean, it's obviously it's sort of limited because you need a lot of blue mana, of course, and you only have a limited amount of blue mana unless you're drawing lands every turn, but there's obviously ways to get around that. And of course, we got Black Vice as a nice kill. Again, it's a great kill in a deck that can buy you, like, Stasis buys you like 100 time walks or something like that. So really, Black Vice is your best way to kill, and that's pretty sweet, pretty nice, pretty easy, pretty simple. I like simple. Another good thing about the deck is its simple mana base. That's right, it's all islands, baby. All islands. And then some Forsaken cities, but all islands. So that lets you use all of the bounce spell stuff. All the free spells, of course, from Mouse Block. Those are quite powerful. Not a ton of free counter magic in this format. Most decks can't play it, so that's nice. And you got a lot of inevitability. Your lock works basically against anyone, and you have enough counter spells to usually sort of set that up in place. Again, obviously there's issues. We'll talk about those later on, but you do have a lot of inevitability. It's pretty great. Not a lot of stuff you can't handle, so that's pretty nice. Pretty nice. So we talked about the deck a little bit. Let's actually look at the list and see what's going on. All right. Now, this is a pretty typical list for the most part. For some reason, a bunch of these people don't play the fourth Black Vice. You're crazy if you don't play the fourth Black Vice. I mean, why would you? You don't need to. Well, I mean, this is like one of the best cards in the deck, right? I mean, yeah, there's no way, like the fourth Vice isn't better than like any other number of things. There's a lot of random stuff in here, so yeah. I mean, I even still had like a bunch of random crap to throw in that I was just sort of trying out. So yeah, 4 Vice. I can't even imagine playing less than 4 Vice. And that was the biggest thing. Last time I played Stasis was like in Legacy, and there just wasn't a good kill. Like, because back in the day, Black Vice was banned in Legacy. This is a long time ago, of course, but and that was the biggest thing. Like, you just could like kind of establish the lock for a little bit. But you couldn't keep it up for very long, and like Wasteland was everywhere too, so that was a big issue. Yeah, so that was not good. That was not good. But here we have Black Vice. We have Black Vice. You don't need to lock him out for like 1,000 turns or like 40 turns or something or whatever before you kill him with your Chronotog or something. Well, I love Chronotog, but um, Black Vice just does it for free. Does it for free, and it's easy. Easy. That's, yeah. And of course, I just put 2 main deck powder kegs, just an answer to random artifacts and creatures and stuff. Thought that'd be nice. Only random stuff I got here really is the random counterspell. I like counterspell. I think it's quite good here. I like the 1 days, of course. There's always days always causes a lot of problems for people, especially in a deck like this that can obviously lock down their mana to where like even the mid and late game days can be live. Quite good, quite good. And of course, it's got synergy with Stasis itself. And then the random Morphling. Some people play it like main deck or sideboard or whatever. I had I'm like I had a slot open. I'm like, well, I have a Morphling that I want to play, so I might as well play a Morphling, right? I'm not 100% sure. Like obviously, this card's a little dirtily in this format, a little slow, but it is kind of nice. It's just another win condition, and it's not really that vulnerable to say like removal and stuff, because of course you can, you know, give it Shroud. And then of course you also have all the free counter magic and stuff like that. But yeah, and of course sideboard is not too wonky. Yeah, just boarding heavily for red decks and stuff. But yeah, there's a lot of work you can do on the sideboard. A lot of different things you can play. So a lot of stuff going on here. A lot of stuff going on here. All right, so let's talk a little bit about what's going on. One of the cards you probably noticed is Arcane Denial. Arcane Denial was specifically put in here because this deck really, really, really wants to find Stasis. Like that's the most important part. And Arcane Denial drawing you a card is actually quite good to be able to find, well, your Stasis, right? That's important. So I like that quite a bit. So that's nice. That's really nice. So it's a little bit better than Counterspell in that respect. Obviously, Counterspell can be better in other places where, you know, it doesn't draw your opponent's cards, but I'd say, yeah, the trade-off of, especially since, like, if it's when you cast this, when you have Stasis down, like, the drawback is a good chance it doesn't do anything, right? Like, you get more cards and to feed, like, your Forsaken City or something like that. Let's talk about Forsaken City. And one of the main ways this deck keeps up Stasis Lock. So you need a blue every turn. But how are you going to do that? You only have so many lands, right? You have to draw land every turn, otherwise they'll just go, right? So Forsaken City, this is how you do it. You can just pitch random stuff to untap it, pay the blue every upkeep. Quite good, very good in this deck. Of course, very vulnerable to Wasteland, of course. And of course, another way that we keep up all this extra blue mana, all these untapped islands, is Gush. Now, of course, there was Thwart, of course, things like Thwart and Daze, but Gush too, card drawing, which is very good, very needed in this deck, as well as a way to draw more cards. Well, obviously to draw more cards, but to also, again, more untapped lands, return to your hand, you play them, and to support your Stasis. And of course, you don't need them for 100 million turns because of Black Vice, right? The Vice ticking away on your opponent. That's pretty sweet. That's very good. So I like that. I like that quite a bit. And of course, we have Foil, just another free counterspell. It's good after like a Gush or a Daze or a Thwart, you know. So that's pretty nice, pretty nice. Yeah, so I mean, yeah, that's kind of the reason why you can, the mono blue mana base can really support all these free spells, which have a ton of synergy, of course, with Stasis itself. So that's quite good, quite good. All right, so there's a bunch of different stuff you can play in your sideboard. So we got here, first and foremost, got Misdirection. Misdirection is pretty nice. Again, it's another free counterspell, just in Counter Wars, or as well as just as you know, targeting, for example, like naturalizes and disenchants if they have targets and things like that. This one's a little narrow. But it could be good. It could be good. So it's something to think about, of course. Then we have Felden's Cane. I don't think I've ever played Felden's Cane in Stasis before. I'm not 100% sure this is needed, but I did see it in a bunch of decks. So maybe other people, I mean, thought it was good enough to play. I mean, I guess it does stop you from decking out. I mean, I'm not 100% sure about that. But it is an option, I guess. Hercule's Recall is just more artifact hate instead of like Null Rod or something. Arcane Lab against combo decks. Pretty good against combo decks, just slowing other decks down that want to play a bunch of spells in a turn. And of course, Stifle. Everyone likes Stifle. Another good utility counterspell against just all sorts of random things, say like Pernicious Deed. Pretty good there. All right. So what kind of problems do we have? First and foremost, aggro decks. So your aggressive red decks, so Sly or Goblins, especially since they can board into stuff like Red Elemental Blast, that's a problem. And sometimes they also play, most of them, and depending on what kind of version they're playing, but typically they'll play Wasteland 2, so that kills their Forsaken Cities, obviously, or if they're playing Ponza, they'll have even more land destruction, so that could be a problem. Stuff like Stompy obviously is really bad because they have Queer and Ranger, and then like Elvish Lyris and stuff for your Stasis itself, so that's not very good. So that's actually probably even worse than they have Emerald Charm or Naturalize Afterboard. Or you have something like the mono black aggro decks, whatever versions those are, whether it's zombies or suicide or hatred or whatever. Yeah, those can be kind of fast, kind of a problem. And unfortunately, there's no real good answers for the black ones, right? Because there's just no real good black hosers in blue. The other big problem, of course, outside of getting your Forsaken City killed, which can be a big problem, but if you don't find Stasis in time, I mean, all you have is the 4 Stasis, and then for draw spells, you have Gush, Impulse, and then like Arcane Denial. And the only tutor really worth playing is like a single Intuition. Too many Intuition is pretty bad. They're a bit dirtly. I mean, obviously you can only really tutor for your Stasis one time with it anyways, so more is not that great anyways, because the next one he draws is going to be kind of dead. And like I said, they're a little slow, not that great. So yeah, but yeah, you don't find your Stasis in time. That's a big problem. But the nice thing is, deck's pretty cheap. Deck's pretty cheap. Like obviously, Keg and Morphling can be expensive. Morphling I don't think is really required at all. Keg's a little more important for dealing with the aggressive decks. And Intuition, like I wouldn't say the 1x Intuition is required. But it's kind of nice just to have like basically a 5th copy of your Stasis, so something to think about. But like I would say in general, like it doesn't need any of the reserve list stuff, so that's kind of nice. Pretty cheap deck. I mean, you can't get much cheaper than Mono Islands, right? And then of course also the Howling Mines, right? So Howling Mines kind of nice. I don't think it's super needed, especially because like obviously like the more cards you draw, the more lanes you can play, the more stuff you have to pitch to your foils and stuff like that, and to your Forsaken Cities, which is again that's good. But your opponent draws more cards. It helps them break out of the lock. So I'm not 100% sure about Howling Mine. They can be kind of awkward, right? They can be really great, or they can just be kind of bad. So not 100% sure about those. I wasn't a huge fan of them, but yeah, well, yeah, I wouldn't worry about it. But if you want to play them, I mean, I guess you can play a couple. Some people have, some people do. But yeah, I mean, mostly deck is just playing lands, countering spells, and then dropping a Stasis and a Black Vice, and then just locking them down for like 5, 6, 7 turns, and there you go. Not too hard. I mean, you have stuff like Chain of Vapor, which I like quite a bit, which can do all sorts of things. For example, you can bounce their creatures or whatever cards you couldn't counter, and then you counter it on the way down. End of their turn, you can bounce your own Stasis to fully untap, then drop your Stasis again. Very nice. I mean, it does a lot of nice tricks. So this is a pretty good card in this deck. Chain of Vapor is really good. I like it a lot. And of course, your sideboard's so wide open, so many different cards you can play, so many good cards you can play, more cards you want to double up on. Maybe you want more mana shorts for the control decks, which those control matchups are typically pretty good because they have a lot of dead stuff main deck and you don't really. So that's nice. But being able to board into stuff like mana short or 2 or something is pretty good because you can end turn. I mean, just typical control deck stuff, right? End of turn mana short, untap, drop your bombs, or excuse me, whatever. So yeah, mana short's pretty good, but there's a lot you can do there. A lot of good stuff. Of course, you have Hibernation, great against the Stompy decks, green decks in general. Also survival, because it says permanence, I believe. So pretty good there. So yeah, lots of good stuff going on. So, yep, that's about it. That's about it, guys. So, thanks for stopping by. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you liked another prison deck. Everyone likes prison decks. Everyone likes wonky Stasis with the wonky art and the super engaging gameplay. But yeah, that's it. So thanks for stopping by, guys, and have a great day.